Hello people, I Kathy from Grey Edge welcome you to another piece of this informative video where we are going to talk about the key new architectural features added in the release of Revit 2022. So let's quickly go through the listed features here one by one. Starting with the very first feature, that is face parameters in view filters, is one of the most prominent features in Revit 2022. In the earlier versions of Revit, we couldn't add the face parameters in view filters. But now in Revit 2022, we can add the face parameters in view filters and can change the graphics of the objects. For example, we have two ceilings placed here. The first ceiling has face created as new construction and face demolished as none. The second ceiling placed here has face created as existing and face demolished as new construction. So both the ceilings have been placed with two different face parameters. Now to change the graphics, we can simply go to Visibility Graphics, Filters, and here we are going to add a new filter naming Face Demolished, and the category that we are going to select is Ceilings, and over here under the parameter list we have a list of all the parameters where we can see the face parameters have also been added in 2022, where I'm going to select Face Demolished equals New Construction. I'll click on OK, and here to add the filter we'll click on Add and select the filter that we just created. Now let us go to the patterns and override the graphic pattern here to, let's say, solid fill, and also we'll give a color to it. I'll click on OK, and what do we see here is the ceiling with face demolished as new construction is being changed to red as we have created a filter and we have changed the graphics for that particular filter. So this is how we can highlight the different elements in different phases by filtering and changing the graphics for the same. Moving on to the next feature, we have tapered walls. This is yet another interesting enhancement added this year. Last year we were available with this option called slanted walls, where we could select the wall and change the cross section to slanted, and we could specify a global angle for the slanted wall. This year Revit has come up with this option in the cross section called tapered, where we can click on tapered, and here we need to specify a variable thickness for one layer in the wall. So I'm getting an error that we have to specify a variable thickness. So before changing the cross section to tapered, I'll just go to the type properties, edit structure, and we can select any layer and specify the thickness as variable. I'll click on OK, and now in the instance properties we'll change the cross section to tapered. Now to change the taper properties, we'll again go to the type properties, and over here we have the cross section properties specified in the type properties, where we can specify an exterior angle and also an interior angle as needed. Now we also have an option called width measured at, where we can specify the specified width, that is 379, should be measured at what, top, base or bottom. Now further, this property, as it is a type property, is of course applied to all the types of this particular wall. Now if I have to give a tapered property which is individual to the selected element, I can come here to the instance properties and click on override type properties, and I can change the exterior or the interior tapered angle as needed. So let's say if I'm changing the interior angle again back to 0, we can see that the interior angle for this wall is changed. But as it's an instance property, it will only be applied to this selected wall and not all the types. So that way we can just override the type properties and change the tapered angle as needed. So this is how now we can have tapered walls in Revit 2022 with enhanced and varied properties. Next we start with another prominent feature, that is native PDF export. In all the versions of Revit, we did not have the access to native PDF exportation tools. So we had to rely on the printer options to save our PDFs. But now in Revit 2022, we can simply go to the File tab, Export, and here we have the native PDF option where we can click on PDF and we get all the PDF export options here. Now the first is the export range, where we can select selected views and sheets. where we can click on this icon to select all the views and sheets that we have to save as PDF. So here we get a list of all the views and sheets available in the project, where we can just go to the filter and we can filter only our sheets available in the project, where we can select all the sheets that we have to export as PDF. So I've selected few of these sheets which I have to export, and I'll click on select. And now here we have a default option activated that is combine selected views and sheets into a single PDF, which will save all these sheets as PDF but in a single PDF file. If we need separate PDF files, we'll uncheck this option, and now we get this option activated where we can specify the naming standards of each and every PDF that is being saved. So here I can, let's say, remove this, and I'll keep view name, and I'll also add a sheet number here with a suffix being added, and I'll remove the separator. I'll click on OK. So now you can see the naming standard of each and every PDF is specified here. So we can have all our sheets that we selected as separate PDFs with the naming standard that we specify. If we have to save it as combined in a single PDF, we can check on this option. Further, we can specify the size options, the paper placement options, etc. and then finally click on export to save all our selected views and sheets to PDF. So that is how we can simply export all our sheets to PDF. We can specify a keyboard shortcut for this tools so that swiftly we can access this particular tool whenever needed. Further, we move on to another best feature in Revit 2022, that is split schedules across sheets. In the earlier version of Revit, we could just add a schedule to the sheet, and if we need to split this in parts, we could click on this icon where the schedule is split but on the same sheet, but we could not split it in multiple sheets. In Revit 2022, now we can just go to the schedule, and here we have an option called split and place, where I can click on this option and specify the number of sheets where I want this particular schedule to be splitted and placed. So I'm selecting the 3 sheets that are available here, and then we can specify the height on the sheet that is needed for each sheet. We can click on split and place, and this will take me to the first sheet where I can specify the placement of my schedule. Let's say if I'm placing this on the top left corner, what we see is the sheet, or you can say the schedule, is being placed at the same place on the other sheets also. Further, we can of course move, and we can just move the schedules as needed, which will not affect the placement of the schedules on the other sheet. Further, once when we have just placed our schedule on the sheet, we cannot split it anymore. Moving on further, we have the next feature as revision numbering flexibility. In Revit 2021, we just had limited options of numbering the revisions like numeric and alphanumeric. Here in Revit 2022, when we go to revisions, we get this customized numbering option where we can click on the numbering, and we can create a new numbering option, or you can say a new numbering standard for ourselves. Just name your numbering sequence and specify the minimum number of digits needed, the starting number, and the prefix that is needed. So I'm just adding a prefix here. I'll click on OK, and we can see the new numbering standard is being added with alphanumeric and numeric, which are the standard ones. I'll click on OK, and let's add the revisions here. And now under the numbering option, we have the new numbering standard that we just added. We can select the new standard, and we'll have our sheet numbering, or the revision numbering as specified. So I can click on OK, and yes, of course, the revision numbering will be specified as per the standards. So this is how we can customize the revision numbering as per the standards that are needed in each project. So that is all for this time. Thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for such informative content ahead.